evening. We will now the Chesterfield Township Planning Commission meeting on October. Call the roll. Ralph here. Jim Clennell here. Jerry Alexi here. Here. Carl Leonard. Ryan Carr. Scott Demink. Paul Miller. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. America, and for which nation visible, liberty and justice for all. Approval of motion to approve agenda as submitted. Support. We have a motion by Mr. Miller, supported by Mr. Alexi. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Public hearings, there is none. Reviews, our Secretary Rick will begin the items that we can do in a timely manner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item A is Jefferson Meadows 2022-07. Site plan RM3, a 7.13 acre site, southwest 1 mile road, southwest 1 mile and south of 21 mile Farwell intersection. The parcel is 15-09-32-226-008. The applicant is here this evening for questions, and if she wants to go over Giffords.
Stephanie, go first.
Sorry,
Please.
I was getting my microphone set up. Good evening. Yes, we have a review or a plan in front of you, proposal, and there are just three I'd like to point out. Items have been addressed that were in our original letter to them sent back in July. So those three things that I'd like to point out occurs on the review. Recreation area. I just wanted to bring it to the Planning Commission's attention for consideration about what would be considered recreational. The applicant has proposed to include table and I just want to hear met the intent of your recreation areas. Secondly, this is on page kind of in the middle of the review letter. The applicant has indicated that they're in getting trees that are required in the green belt for each building. They've asked that able to plant the trees elsewhere on the site, and they have a number of places. So commission for determining acceptable. And on page very top, the those horizontal the last and the question brick veneer materials compliance. Thank you.
A gazebo type of permit in that area. So we have a meeting with a consultant about a month ago for some of the open events, and it was just because with all the utilities, with the water, and there was no disagreement with your water group moving those things elsewhere. So we're not planting right in front buildings. Minimum of plans. I think best is, I think, clarification, it full, I would consider stick, brick, it's a full block.
Mr. Gl-
I to be more better than here. There's a tree that's and I guess it does sound nice creation. So that'd be my.
I think good idea. And I was, we could maybe get a couple, you know, not people to.
So what generally we've done kind of this layout, not in other communities, do permit barbecue with patio themselves, and it seems, but I think is having a community, people just out their backyard on a patio and using it is personal preference.
That was, I asked was, what do those people do with their garbage? Is there a dumpster?
So what we're going to do is curbside pickup. There will be no dumpster, curbside pickup.
Okay.
The applicant has been very, very receptive to all of our asks. I would think that a gazebo would enhance what they have there. They've got a bench, table of sorts. I think that would satisfy, in my opinion, what we're looking for.
Mr. Demink?
I'm good with the gazebo and the brick and veneer, because I would not have if it was a brick veneer. So yeah, as long as it's full brick, we've always sort of had it. So, me. Otherwise,
Mr. Carr?
I have a few questions. So is it brick or is it, because the drawings say brick veneer?
It's a full brick.
So those drawings,
Brick veneer, maybe an industrial for is a full face
okay.
brick.
Horizontal siding, what is it?
Vinyl siding.
I thought of it and
I had a conversation. With the board, they're using them simply, you know, and I informed him it was certainly not my decision. What is going to be required?
well, just applicant, almost identical. Change the vinyl siding to, you know, type product. Lasts longer, is more durable, and looks better in the community. Just from a board perspective, consistent and kind of the same. So I have an issue with the vinyl siding. Thing is, on your elevation, you'll have wood trim. I know we trim because that's a paint. You didn't meet on your elevation?
Product.
Will have to be updated, whatever the board here determines, but either way, it definitely says trim is acceptable. The other thing is, right now I take it from a lighting perspective. every, I mean, like porch lights, like in front of the garage, at the main porch, community lighting?
It will be, front, photos,
On a photo cell,
yes,
lights will be on, so there'll be illumination in the
Yep.
neighborhood?
yes.
Okay. The other question I had is that secondary access, I'm assuming you just have that?
It is a requirement of the fire
Yeah,
code,
so
yes.
they get loop in. So how are you, I didn't see anything how you're actually restricting people from using it.
So that there'll be a gate with a Knox box, and this was
Yeah,
another
okay.
comment that came up in our, with that requirement of
Yeah.
a locked box.
So
on
where's
it.
that implemented? All I saw was the lines and yet with a Knox box. Very familiar with that. I didn't see anything in the plans that state that. So I don't know if I missed.
So, sheet 4, excuse me, sheet 4.
Sheet 4. Sheet 4.
And if you look in the vicinity of the access drive, it's got a note and label, 18-foot wide emergency access gate with chain and Knox padlock.
Okay, you just got a note, no details or nothing. So we say chain, what does that mean? Like, you're gonna have like, 2 4-inch pipes with concrete in it with a chain, like literally that, or? I mean,
There'll
what does
be
it look like?
a metal gate, a metal gate.
But no detail on the drawing here, what it looks
There,
like?
I don't believe that he had asked for one, no.
Because I assume, because it faces 21 Mile Road, I'm assuming we're gonna want like aluminum or something that's more decorative than just a chain link ugly gate, right? Because it's right on 21 Mile Road, so that was kind of my point is, I didn't see anything, like detailing that out. So I think that has to be added one way or another so that we understand what he's put in there, because typically we would like to see some type of an aluminum decorative type gate, that's aesthetically pleasing, because it's on the main road. And then in regards to landscaping, I actually think you did a nice job with your landscaping. I don't have any issue with your trees. As long as, you make it aesthetically pleasing, to me, that's the main goal, and I think you did a nice job with that. So I don't have any issues with any of that. That's everything I got on this one. Thanks.
Mr. Leonard?
Yes, I also like the gazebo. Was there a mention of what size gazebo you were thinking?
We didn't talk specific. I would say in this location with this many units, roughly a 12 to 16 foot diameter gazebo would be appropriate.
So like a 16 by 16 octagon type thing?
Yes, yeah.
Can we make it part of the 16 by
Yep.
16
Yes.
octagon gazebo? Yeah, I think the bigger size, because of people there.
I'm fine with the 16 by.
Okay. And the brick is good. Vinyl siding, I'm not sure if, if I have any real issues with that, more if it was a restaurant or some other type of location, but, so, that's all I have, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't really have anything, but we did receive a letter from Carl Gruninger, 462 Tiffin. Just wanted to get a copy of it.
I did.
That's all I had. Thank you. Mr. LeBlanc?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the only thing that's left open now is the siding. What is the board's feelings about that? I know that in the past, Mr. Carr is exactly right. In the past, we've asked that people use something similar to hardy board on the buildings because it's more durable. It looks better, in my opinion, just a vinyl siding. So I'm not opposed to anything that has been brought to us in front of us tonight, other than what are we going to do about the siding?
Well, I would like to see the hardy board siding.
I'd like to see it too.
Yeah.
I agree, it's been standard so far.
They do have other products besides the hardy board that are similar.
May I make a comment? Vinyl siding is permitted by your ordinance. I understand that it may have been approved prior, but I believe that was a willing act on an applicant. But vinyl siding is an accepted product by way of your ordinance.
Council?
The ordinance reads, two-family and multiple-family development shall be evidence of 51% of spacing on each side of each material, low maintenance, high durability, is determined by the commission. It also says no materials that are painted or require painting shall be permitted on any elevation of any building in any zoning district except for single-family and two-family homes. So if it's a painted hardy board, then I guess that's out of the question. We also have brought up other products that are
Still painted.
the baked in color or
Anybody else have any thoughts? Mr. Carr, do you have any thoughts on that?
I try not to make recommendations in regards to exactly the product. I just know that, you know, I just believe that we should just be consistent with how we treat everybody. And we typically don't like painted products because at the end of the day, they're not maintained very well. And vinyl siding, although has improved significantly, you know, I think, again, it's homes, things of that nature, it's a product, but in a community like this, where we already have that are in the, obviously are very with the appearance of an apartment type like this. I just think that there's a product that's pleasing, meets the durability requirement, and will integrate back to the surrounding community, because at the end of the day, they are surrounded by single-family homes, and we've had that feedback from this neighborhood on this parcel several times. So you know, I don't know the best product. I just know that there's probably would work. I'd have to read on that, but you know.
Thank you. Anybody else have comment on that? No, no other comments?
There's one more comment. Would you be willing to look into some other product other than vinyl siding?
I'm reluctant to do it. So we're builders throughout southeast Michigan, Macomb County. We've done, and we've tracked different materials that are out there. We don't believe hardy siding is the end all be all as far as a low maintenance product. We've had great success over the years with vinyl. This is a community that we're gonna own for years, and will probably be passed down to the next generation of owners. So it's in our best interest to do what we think is the most reasonable for maintenance, and we think it is a vinyl product. It's proven, it's been very successful in the communities that we've dealt with.
I have a question. Do you have the siding manufacturer spec'd out?
For the vinyl siding?
Yeah, because I'm familiar with a CertainTeed product, and they have an upgrade to their vinyl line that has darker colors, less likely to fade, and it's a little thicker. I don't know if you were planning, if vinyl does become the choice that's allowed, you know, if you'd be looking in something that's more of an upgrade.
I wouldn't be opposed to looking at other that are available. I'm not too familiar with what else is out there that we've been using, but I'm not opposed to doing research on other vinyl products.
I don't know which way that's gonna go yet, but
Sure.
I just had that question of if you had a manufacturer or anything on that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve, contingent upon, there was a few items this evening that were brought up. The first item is we'd like to see a gate detail on the drawing, and that can be done administratively. We'd like to see some kind of a decorative gate on the front of the building, on the front of the site. The second item is the applicant has agreed 16-foot. As part of the applicant is also looking more durable type of site, be it something the applicant is at least willing to look at doing something differently. With that, I'll make a motion to approve.
Should that be mentioned that the improvement administratively when it comes up to the?
Correct. Yeah, and that as well should be taken care of administratively.
I'll support that, and I have a question. When we mentioned the gazebo, we had said it was going to be an octagon. Should that be part of the motion?
If the board does choose, then my motion will reflect that it's a 16 by 16 gazebo in an octagon shape.
Thank you.
Could be a hexagon, too. You know,
A
what I'm
hexagon
saying.
shape,
Yeah.
okay.
Just didn't want to see a square, you know.
Okay.
We have a motion by Mr. LaBelle, supported by Mr. Leonard. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
The second item this evening is Dynamic Plastics. It's 2022-10, site plan M2, a 4.23 acre site, west side of Commerce Boulevard, north of 25 Mile Road. The parcel ID is 15-09-04-326-001. The address is 29797 Commerce Boulevard. The applicant is here. Webster, if you could please give their narrative.
Great. The applicant's proposing to construct 32,515 square foot addition to their existing building on Commerce Boulevard. I have just a couple of comments to point out to you for your discussion. The first, similar to our applicant, this proposal also includes brick and a stone portion of the as pre-manufactured insulated wall panels to match the existing building. So the commission should discuss whether these materials are acceptable or not. Thing is the landscaping in the parking area. For replacement trees, So the site renovation is going to require quite a few trees, and they that's a correction from this review letter due to the tree review that was done after this was written. So the applicant has provided 20 trees, replacement trees, and originally 31 paid into fund not existing. They have and they also have one additional that was not included in this original proposal that they made. So the plan should, if this meets the intent of the ordinance, and how to adjust for the additional tree that's needed that was not initially included in this proposal. Additionally, there's some plants in the landscaping plan that should be discussed. The birch tree, we just need to confirm that the caliper width is correct, and also that crabapple trees and pear trees will be allowed. They are fruit-bearing trees, which your ordinance does not permit. However, in speaking with the applicant previously, he did note that they were sterile trees. So just points for discussion. And a general overview, or a look at the parking area. The parking area has 15 required parking trees, only indicated on the site plan. So 3 trees within the parking areas. And the parking areas also have quite a bit of space in the southwest corner, lots of air, like a wide access aisle. And so the Planning Commission should discuss how the applicant will mitigate safety concerns with that for drivers. Additionally, the lighting parking area ratio, average minimum ratio is higher than 7 to 1 instead of the 1, and not all the light are set back 2.5 on the. And the last or an existing track along the existing building to remain should be removed and be the proper width of, or the required 6 feet and 5 feet that it currently.
Hi. Building representatives.
You want to give us a little answers to her questions?
Sure, we probably will have to have you reiterate them to me, but the trees, although they're denoted as crab apple, those are sterile, non-fruit-bearing trees, common landscape trees used in industrial properties. As far as the brick, we're matching the existing building. It is not, when we say brick veneer, that is not panel brick. Panel brick goes to a landfill. I don't use it. These are actual bricks. The term veneer is referred to as a false or a facade that is not structural. So these are actual brick. The tree shortage, we have nowhere to put 31 more trees. We can't put them in the easement. The site's full. We're not trying to get out of it. So I don't really know what we need to do with that. We're happy to pay. That's not. We plant them in a park. You guys come up with. We'll accommodate. There's no room.
Okay, Jonathan, do we still have that tree committee?
To my knowledge, I believe the township had a tree fund in the past, but it no longer exists. It's been talked about doing something in that regard. So really, in this case, there would be the 3 options. 1, find a way to meet the ordinance. 2, the ordinance request a waiver from the township board. The 3rd, a high and post money for the cost of the tree they would be required to meet by the time they receive it. And in the meantime, if it's something that the planning commission is interested in, we can look at reestablishing a tree fund. I mean, it would ultimately be up to the board, but that is something that we could look into doing.
Any questions, Mr.
Well, one question I had was just the turning radius on the truck plan. Do you have the plans in front of you?
I don't have the plans. I'm pretty familiar with them.
Okay, so you have the existing truck well that's on the existing building, and it looks like now you're gonna have the trucks come in on the new entrance?
No, not necessarily. They can come in either way. That turning radius.
Okay, so I guess because right now the way you have, the way you're showing the radius, you're only showing the radius of them coming in with the new entrance. They come around the building, they go to the, to behind the existing, and then it shows two backup paths, one to the existing and then one to the new.
That's probably the most effective path.
Yeah, so my question is around the existing building. If you look at it, they have the truck backing up to the dumpsters, not the actual truck well, because I don't think it would make the actual radius of the corner of that building. So I guess my question is how, in the new configuration, are you going to back up into that truck well? Without, I guess then, I guess from my perspective, I'm just logistically trying to understand how you're doing it, because right now you're showing it to where it doesn't actually, you know, it won't actually get into the new building, or, you know, to the existing truck wall. And I'm just going by your actual your diagrams, right? I mean, I didn't make the plans up, but you can see it backing up to the 3 dumpsters, and the truck well is over here, and it's because they can't make that tight of a radius with the corner of that building, which means, I don't know why your engineer would show something that they showed
Well,
it, to your point.
I
they
pay
should've
him a
showed
lot,
it.
I pay him a lot to make sure. I haven't run into you before. You know, stake in there.
Well, I think you should then probably, because I guess from a traffic standpoint, that ties into what one of the comments are from Giffords Webster, which is pave a whole bunch of, you know, you're just kind of paving your site, which kind of ties into my tree concern. You know, with the tree concern, so there, you know, typically in a parking lot, the way you have it, or the way your engineer has it, but in this case it's you, the way you have it designed, you're verbally saying that traffic can go either way, which then kind of proves the point that, you know, typically you do like directional arrows so that people that are coming back and forth there that maybe aren't as familiar with it clearly have, you know, lanes that they can travel with. And so I can see why it would get a little confusing, you know, people that, once they get in the back, and if you have multiple trucks coming and going out of the back of that, and then you got POVs coming in and out of it, it really is kind of a congestion. It is really quite congested in regards to traffic flows. So I think, but then it ties the tree issue. Ordinary trees are there and exactly doing what we're doing is to try to prevent that, which is overbuilding on your site. So that tree ordinances are there because doing what they want to do with their site out to the of your property line like you did with all parking lot and building, right? That's what we're trying to avoid within our community. Say that you just can't physically get it, it's because maybe you're overbuilding on the site that you have. You know, nobody told you had to go that big with the building. Nobody told you had to asphalt the entire balance of your site. That's a business decision that you made. So from my perspective on the trees, I think the trees should be in compliance, because really that's why we have ordinances. Don't overbuild on the site we have. So that's basically my 2 comments is just, you know, I think that the traffic patterns in the parking lot that Giffords Webster brought up, to me that does got to be cleaned up. You know, from the tree perspective, I think that and start making, you know, we start allowing everybody to get out of you know, the tree ordinance, which is again is there for a good reason, you know, or we, you know, we don't, right? So from my perspective, I think that they should be, again, because we didn't put those constraints on there. This is a decision made by a business to overbuild on the lot that they had outside of the constraints of our ordinance. That's my comments.
Thank you. Mr. Leonard?
I don't have anything at this time.
With regard to the trees in the park area that they're efficient, I know they calculate parking footage. But for the applicant here, employees are employed?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah.
We've accommodated parking, but we're up against it by creating or eliminating paved areas. We wouldn't have adequate parking. And that building meets all the requirements or setbacks. I wouldn't even suggest that lot is maxed out based on, you know, the possibilities of that lot. It's probably maxed out for what they're using it for as the addition, but if it was sold to another individual, I believe they could put a larger building on that and still meet everything with possible exception of the tree ordinance.
Okay, no further questions right now.
Mr. Alexi?
To know about the parking ratio. we're in compliance with the parking ratio right now? Is that what you said?
Yes,
So there's no extra,
there is no extra.
no room to get rid of any?
Nope.
That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Mr. LaBelle?
Just for clarification, the tree deficit that we're encountering tonight, it's because of the removal of the existing trees on the existing piece of property. So much the requirement, if those trees didn't exist now, meet the township ordinance with the amount that they're proposing.
As the case other than in the parking lot areas where they're deficient, those three, yes.
And to Mr. Carr's point, I agree that we need to have the trees, and, you know, our ordinance does allow him to, from what I understand, our ordinance does allow him to put that large of a building on that site. I'm not opposed, personally not opposed to, if they did put up some kind of a bond, and then, you know, we could utilize those trees elsewhere in the township to make this problem go away. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Not, I would entertain a motion.
That's what we should do, if everybody else is okay with it. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve site plan 2022-10. It was clarified that that is just the way the architect does identify the brick on a building as a veneer product, simply because it's not a load-bearing product, it's just something over top of a load-bearing membrane. As far as the missing trees, I am not opposed, and as part of my motion, I'd be willing to allow the applicant to put the money in escrow account for 2 missing trees, that the township has the opportunity to put them elsewhere in our township to away. Also, would ask that the applicant administratively put on lines that the trees are fruit-bearing, and that also administratively take care of the lighting ratio. That can be done administratively. The applicant is willing to go back to the lighting designer and adjust to reduce the ratio.
Of course.
I'm sorry?
Of course, we will do that.
Is there anything else, Mr. Carr?
Sidewalk.
Oh, the sidewalk out front. I don't know that I can put that in my motion. It's an existing sidewalk. The applicant has agreed to speak to the owner about removal of that sidewalk and make it, you know, a continuous 6-foot sidewalk across the front of the building. Just as a side note, can we, and I'm in the middle of a motion, can we even require him to take something out that's existing, renovating that area?
Well,
I mean, I'm right in the middle of a motion here.
would you like me to respond to it, or?
Please.
Okay. So when you go through the site plan review process, if your site is in any way, then typically you are asked to bring the site up to compliance. However, recognition that oftentimes there are existing conditions that are not impacted by a development, you may consider not requiring the removal of a sidewalk that at least is existing, yet deficient.
Okay, so if we do have a leg to stand on in the court system, then part of my motion is that the applicant, the owner, will remove the sidewalk, the existing sidewalk, and make it compliant with our ordinance, which is 6 feet. With that, I make a motion to approve.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. LaBelle, supported by Mr. Alexi. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Nay. Brian, you vote no? Mr. Carr voted no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you all.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes of the prior meeting. I will make a motion to approve the minutes of September 20th, 2022.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Miller, supported by Mr. LaBelle. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Communications, there is no new business. Jonathan has something about station canopies. Want me to read all this?
So I wanted to get an interpretation from the planning commission tonight on this ordinance. It's important to note that this is an interpretation, not so much what your preference would be. There's been some debate amongst the staff and gas station owners on what it means. So I have a couple of examples to show you. So first of all, the ordinance does state is with permitted freestanding canopies such as gas stations shall be permitted one sign on the fashion street face, one sign permitted street frontage of 10 per sign. The sign shall be placed in canopy fashion solid color. That's point important part that I'm looking for the interpretation on. So I'll show you a couple of examples. I guess it's kind of a little hard to see up there on the screen, but this is the Valero that's at 26 in Gratiot. This was done before the ordinance, but as you can see, there's multiple colors. The base is white, and it has some blue and yellow that kind of have some design elements to it, more so than what I would interpret to be a solid color. This is the Amico. It's a new canopy on 23 Mile Road. This one has not been approved. It is currently in code enforcement because they didn't receive the proper approvals and permits. But however, if you look, you can see that there's blue on the far side, red on the other side, and then the Amco sign is over a solid white background. Here's the Meyer gas station. Again, it's got kind of a blue band around the center with the sign over a white background. This is the Mobile, which used to be the 7-Eleven. Mostly blue mobile sign being over the background with the white accent on the bottom. And then this is the Speedway, so they have the textured kind of look to theirs with the red accent band. Now this is an example of one that has come in after the new ordinance. This is at 22 in Gratiot. So they do have a solid blue. It doesn't do it much justice in the picture. When you see it in person, it could just be an optical thing, but it looks like a little bit of a different shade around the bottom portion that can be kind of overlaps, and they have LED lights underneath there. So in that case, I mean, it is a solid color, but for the interpretation that I'm asking you for. This is the BP at 23 in Gratiot. This one this was done after the ordinance, and to be honest with you, this one was an administrative error on the fault of the township. The provided drawings made it look like a solid color. The drawings weren't of the highest quality, and then when it was brought up to the sign company, when higher quality drawings were provided, that band that you can see in the middle there, it's kind of a light green strip that goes through the center, was actually shown on the plans. So again, it's one color. Does that meet the intent of the ordinance? This is really the one. There's been a couple of gas stations that have kind of had the debate with me on what the intent of the ordinance is. This is really the one that has come to the point where I'm here now because I want the planning commission to give us that interpretation of what that means. So as you can see, white canopy with the shell sign. What they would like to do, as you can see, it's the yellow canopy, red accent band with the sign itself over a solid white background. And then I put this one in here. This is the old Sunoco, just to kind of show you, you know, one of the ways that the ordinance could have been looked at in the past when the planning commission, I mean, ultimately it was the board approved the sign ordinance change. One of the things that was talked about is with gas station canopies, they tend to get, as you can see, the racing stripes and the decals on the side of it, that once you start to get into content neutrality of a sign, what actually is a sign? Is it just a symbol on a canopy? So that's why we went with the solid color. So with all that being said, to go back to the beginning, I'm asking the planning commission to make an interpretation. Sign shall be placed on a dash with a solid color.
Mr. Lexi?
Well, when I read that, I think it means, just like it says, solid color with one logo on it. All the way. One solid color. That's how I would interpret it.
We also talked at one time about if that's their branding, we should allow any color that's in their branding to sign like we do all them other stuff.
The color is not an issue, and it doesn't say they have to be white or.
But just one solid color.
Right.
Not multiple.
If done properly, the solid color with a stripe, determining what size stripe, it doesn't look bad in some of those, but it gets a little busy. Then they're putting all kinds of other things on it, and I think that's where how do you'd have to be real specific if you're going to have, like the shell, if it was a yellow with a red stripe, how big is the stripe? I think it would look nice. Those are their colors. But I'm not totally opposed to doing something that is a little more than just a solid color. But I don't like them when they get real busy, so.
But we're supposed to be interpreting the regulation here, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, I'm asking you for an interpretation of what it currently says.
Right.
The other side of that is if you interpret it one way, but don't necessarily agree with that, that comes down to an ordinance amendment, more so with how it's written. So, and I guess the hardest distinction for me to make is when, let's say for example, this Meyer one. These gas station, my initial interpretation is with the current shell, one solid color with a logo. That's how I've applied it. This comes up in the just on a solid, that's planning commission, more so than, something like that. In that case, in my opinion, you have three colors. So.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, I personally like the multi-colors. I think, and allowing the applicants to kind of put their logos and designs as they wish. That would probably, changing the ordinance would probably be the way I would look at it. But keep in mind that this is coming from a guy that's colorblind, so be it what it may.
You should have started your conversation with that.
Yeah.
That was really, well done, Jim.
Or left it out.
Yeah, you should have just had us played with us a little bit.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
In my interpretation, I believe, as stated, as the township ordinance states, it should be a solid color, just simply because when you start getting into the stripes, and we might start talking about content. Next, it's going to be a racetrack gas station that has tire prints going down the side of the canopy in a different color. Now, that's turned into a big sign. They're going over the square footage. So the way that I interpret it is just as it's written. It should be one color with their signage on that color.
All right, my turn.
Anybody else?
Then I got questions, so I'm gonna direct it to our planners. What have you guys seen in other jurisdictions?
Well, I think we're looking at, if we look at the way that the ordinance is written, and we look at the sign being put on the canopy fascia, to me, that's the front of the fascia, and that says it should be one color. So some communities are more explicit about the design of the canopy. But in this case, when I'm reading through the definition that you have of canopy sign or canopy in the sign ordinance, and then I'm also looking at your building materials standards and the gas station standards in the zoning ordinance, just to see if I can glean any other background information. And I think that that thinking of it as a one color for the canopy is consistent with the standards that you have for building materials. It's a different material, it's not talking about that. But having that high standard of appearance, it's what it sounds like, and I think that's the way that it's been applied previously.
Jonathan, do you want us to make a motion and vote on this, or?
Yeah, I think that's probably appropriate. And then,
Okay.
I mean, if you guys want to have further discussion on whether you would like us to draft something, again, this is not a zoning ordinance, so it's ultimately, it would go to the board. It doesn't come to the public hearing at the planning commission, but if it's something the planning commission wanted to review, that's also something we can look at. But, yeah, just, I would like something formal from the planning commission for,
So you have
So-
something to state when, so you have something to state when these corporations come to you?
correct.
So with these canopies, that would come before pre-planning anyways, correct? Before the board when they present to the township?
No, all signs now are approved administratively unless they're requesting a variance. That's the only reason billboards and variance requests are the only ones that come in front of the planning commission now.
So I guess I'm just not clear exactly what you're looking for, because it's written this way, it's stated that it's one color with your logo.
Because there's difference from myself and applicants, and rather than having that debate, I wanted to discuss the planning commission and ask for the planning interpretation.
Okay.
You guys give me an interpretation that I've applied it, then the app come and ask for planning commission.
Okay.
I didn't want to go, I wanted to get a clarification for there.
If I can add one more thing, if we think of it the opposite way, and when we read that line again, the sign shall be placed on a canopy fascia with a solid color. If that only applied to the 10 square feet of the sign, what would be the alternative? Just that part has all kinds of stripes behind the letters? It seemed like that's something that that rise to the occasion of being regulated. A small sign, 10 square feet, that we're saying just that has to be solid. Like, it doesn't matter whatever anything else is or looks like on that canopy, which is why it seems as though the way that it's been applied, the whole canopy is solid. Makes sense.
Well,
The front face canopy.
of the canopy, not the sign.
Right.
So if the sign be a
Yeah,
square
that's
foot
part of
area,
the sign ordinance.
but because it says fascia, means the sign has to be applied to a one-color
Right.
fascia.
The sign is being applied to the face side of the canopy.
Okay.
It doesn't need to be 5 lines. It should just be, your canopy is allowed to be a single color on sign per side that faces a major roadway.
I do.
That sign cannot be larger than 10 square feet. And then you can't read into it. There's nothing, there's no interpretation.
There's always an interpretation. Believe me, when
Well,
when
no,
the
I-
developers come in, they're gonna try and badger Jonathan
No,
to
no,
get
yeah,
whatever
no,
they want.
I,
It's just-
yeah,
Right.
yeah, no, I know. I mean, I
Right.
know that. I'm in construction. I deal with this stuff all the time, and
I can manipulate a lot of stuff, because in what I do. Saying like, this isn't, I mean,
By putting in zoning ordinance under the standards for the canopies shall be a solid color.
just make it, what do you want?
But is that also something you guys want to see? Do you like the canopies that are all white with just?
Oh, I don't want all
shell?
white.
Or-
I think they should be
well,
able to pick the color of
right,
their
no, that-
logo.
but color.
Yeah.
You could also say one color and one stripe,
Yeah.
and a stripe of a contrasting color.
I don't know what the deal is, but as you can see between the Marathon and the Shell, they both have fought me. I mean, this is not something that just came up. This has
Yeah.
been going on. And for some reason, you know, they did their canopy just to get it done as they continued the debate, and they went with white. Why they went with white, I don't know.
It's easy.
But I guess, you know, the Sunoco is the only one that did something other than white with just a solid color.
Is the Meyer one legal?
Even the other one's blue and white and red with sign.
I mean, all of these are done prior to the ordinance, with the exception of the Sunoco, the Shell, and I don't have a picture of it, but the Marathon.
Yeah, so
So is
Sunoco,
the Sunoco considered one colored with just two shades?
Yeah.
Shading.
So the canopy is one color, but they're two shades. You said there's a stripe, and you can kind of see, looks like the top and the bottom is dark.
Yeah, I don't think their intention was for it to be two different shades. I think it's just the way it's two different materials overlapping, and it just.
Put the picture frame on a picture, I like that, you know, so if we were gonna allow just the one color, then a different shade of the same color. I don't think that'd be cool. But I'd like to see it, I think they come scared.
and I mean, but if you start putting that in a creative ordinance for him, I think
So-
he's trying to,
yeah.
he wants to simplify it, clean it up, so that there's less interpretation. If you start going, oh, you. Slightly different.
What I'm saying is that it would tell them what it is, one color, if they wanted to put the stripe.
If they wanted to do the stripe, then it would have to come to us. Then you say that they would.
If they wanted a variance, but then they gotta be, why don't we do this?
I don't know,
think-
I mean, I don't wanna just close the door on it if
I
it
think
looks
that-
nice.
I don't wanna speak for everyone, but I think you guys have said that my interpretation of it is correct. So, in the meantime, I can put together a couple of different drafts. Option to clarify as it stands now, another option for a stripe, and then you guys can debate at a future meeting, and then we'll take that to the board.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
That
good.
all sounds good. I mean, white. Yeah. You can't hear me?
Okay, we're done with that?
So, no, I'm done with it, but the only thing I was just gonna say is, I mean, personally, as an architect, I think whether it's one color or multicolors, I personally don't think it makes the township look any better or worse. I mean, I see nothing wrong with them branding their canopy. I mean, it's a branding thing, right? And so, in the big scheme of things, what are we really trying to do? I mean, it isn't like we have all over the place that are unsightly because they have either three stripes because they're, because they have three different shades of red or something, or they got all blue. I guess that's my only comment. I'm not colorblind, like Mr. Clown. I don't have colors because what's wrong with the colors? I mean, what's wrong with that has, like, some of the, none of them were unsightly. I actually think the Myers one was the ugliest. It was plain and ugly. The
Some
ones
of
that-
them had too much other stuff though,
Well,
got too
what did
busy.
it have?
No, not that one.
No,
There
I
was
know.
one that had a bunch of other, Jonathan brought up that it almost was like an advertising.
Yeah, what did you have on there? Like, was there some other, what was the?
Was there one that you mentioned that it had?
Yeah, I meant like the BP. See the BP? Go back. The BP one. Yeah, like, what's wrong with that? I mean, personally, from my perspective, I mean, canopy with their BP sign, and personally, I think that's a nice looking canopy. So, I'm just saying, why would we, and literally, that's all the colors that are in the BP, and they did an attractive canopy. What's wrong with that? It's branding. It isn't like it's this huge feet high. It's a canopy for a gas station.
What about the price up there? I
No, we didn't, but that's not part of the ordinance, but you're going down a rabbit hole. We're just talking about the colors of the canopy and that they're allowed one signage on each street-facing facade, right?
But they're putting the price up there.
They wouldn't be able to put.
Yeah. I'm just sharing that. I didn't mean to complicate it for you, because I know what you're trying to do. I'm just saying, I don't think there's nothing wrong with
I agree
an
with
attractive,
Brian.
yeah.
I mean, my background in buildings,
Correct. But we gotta, how to tailor the language so that, I mean,
I think Rick make a motion, Jonathan draw up a couple things, bring it back to another meeting, and then we hash it out. Give us 3 possibilities. That's what I would
but
suggest.
I'm not opposed to having some color in there.
Make up
But it's gotta
3
be-
things
like
after
I
you
said
research
before,
it,
You gotta control it.
and then bring it back and we debate it. What do you think of that, Rick?
As a discussion point, I agree.
Pardon?
I agree, the color.
What was the one that you had up there that had some stuff down on the end? It was more than just the logo.
Talk.
To make a motion. To make a pose. Like to make a motion to evening, give the planning department an opportunity to come up with scenarios.
Support?
All in favor?
Aye.
Just briefly, the Giffords Webster team, them, Rad, and others up at Mac. Looking forward to see anyone else who's up there. I will not be there, but wishing you all a great time.
Seeing no one, bring it back to the commissioners. Comments? Jonathan?
You should have had your stuff for your conference registration. Also want to make sure everyone knows, the last ferry leaves at 5:30 PM, and they recommend that you get there an hour beforehand, so you're
all
not
have-
swimming.
Do we all have to go on the boat because Jenny, or
You all have your own QR code. You should be able to go whenever you get there.
ticket for the ferry?
Yeah.
So Jenny was
Your
looking
ticket.
into getting the tickets today. I think she was trying to find an answer if she purchases them for everybody, if they all come in one ticket or not. I don't know what the resolution is to that, so I'll let you guys know tomorrow whether the township's gonna be buying them, giving them to you, or whether you're gonna be buying them yourself and get reimbursed.
Okay,
We gotta figure that out.
thanks.
Notice there was no beer tickets in here either.
That's coming to Giffords.
Golf outing, they give you.
There's 6 o'clock at the. That's
Commission,
Mac and all.
good? Alex,
Tonight.
Volunteers for
that was. The car wash.
Back from, since we, your letter,
Do we have any?
I believe we have, left scheduled for
Okay.
the, residential subdivision. Asking to wait when they leave, they're gonna be ready.
Okay. Can talk about that. If there's nothing to adjourn, We have a motion